When Tales of Xillia originally got showcased way back in the 2010s, I was beyond hyped to try out the game. Graphically, the inspired art direction captured my attention immediately, especially for that time frame. Then the gameplay reveal hits, touting a new link system that pairs up two characters together to unlock new ways to finesse and flex intricate combos onto unsuspecting victims. With just those two things alone, me and my buddy were super excited to play through this game together. That's right, the Tales of franchise was one of the few long-form JRPGs at the time with meaningful co-op capabilities thanks to its real-time combat system. If you wanted to play through the whole journey together, you could. To note, especially compared to other JRPGs at the time, the Tales of franchise did a lot of things differently and tried to innovate on many aspects of the gameplay. The franchise prides itself on this blend of character-focused narratives and a 2D fighting game combat system filled with cancels, OTGs, and the like. Without this franchise, I probably would not have gotten into playing fighting games competitively. It still blows my mind to this day that Tales of was able to encompass so many relevant concepts that would help you succeed at a competitive fighting game in a single-player or co-op RPG experience. Unfortunately, neither my buddy or I had a PS3, and so the dream of playing Tales of Xillia died, and we moved on. But with the recent release of the Tales of Xillia Remastered on basically all modern platforms, I'll finally get the opportunity to try out Tales of Xillia 12 years later. Though I can't deny, I'm a bit nervous to try this game. The Tales of franchise might have hit me at the right place at the right time. Maybe that's why I like it so much. My standards for video games may not have been refined yet. Maybe my gaming tastes have changed way too much over the years. Whatever it is, I'm fearful that this experience might sour me on the memories of things that I've once loved. Or maybe it will do the opposite. If you'd like to see more videos like these, hit that like button and subscribe for more content. For those with access to YouTube's new hype feature, hype up this video, it really helps out the channel. Thanks. For most of this video, I'll try to remain relatively spoiler-free. Right off the bat, something that is very hard to not notice is that even though the game has a beautiful art direction, it definitely is showing its age. I did want to note, however, that this game got rebuilt from the ground up using the Unity engine, so it is running on something totally different from its original release on the PS3. But even though the textures are kinda dated, the art style more than makes up for it, with a vibrant color palette, some inspired settings, and stellar animations, especially while in combat. On that note, I have so much to say about the combat system itself. To start off, so that way we're all on the same page, the Tales of franchise are known for some very nutty combat systems that can be taken as repetitive and boring depending on who you are. For most of these games, your combat options are very limited at the beginning, but then starts to grow as your characters level up, get more skills, and unlock more arts and ways to cancel into these arts. So the way that you'll be able to inflict pain on the enemies will be drastically different from when you start the game versus when you end the game. And it can take a very long time to get there. To add to that, the game never requires you to learn more than 30% of the actual combat system to succeed, especially on your first playthrough. To better elaborate, this means that the enemy AI is never gonna challenge you in a way where you're required to become a combo master, or you have to fully understand any mechanic that is nestled within the combat system to make sure that you win. These scenarios may come up in harder difficulties in post-game challenges, but it will never be a thing the game in its mainline story will ask you to do, most of the time. Realistically, most players playing any Tales game, especially Tales of Xillia, can pick up a controller, mash buttons, and have a bit of fun. Some games may not allow you to do this as much. For example, Tales of Xillia, unless you understand the combo system. The combat system in that game is not as intuitive to pick up and learn, and can be frustrating for some people who are not used to the clunky nature of combat systems that require cancels to be fluid. If you are the type of person like young me, who really enjoyed doing really cool badass combos to enemies that can't fight back, like in a training room of some sort, you're gonna love these types of games. But if you prefer something more methodical, more risky, I could see the Tales of combat being a little bit more repetitive than you'd like, simply because the enemies really are a bit of a pushover for most of the game. Tales of Xillia specifically does some really cool things with its combat system. As soon as you get past the tutorial and unlock combat proper, you'll be introduced to the game's special link system, which expands your combo variety by quite a bit. Now there are link partners that are ideal against certain enemy types, and then it also changes your moveset so that way you can combo in more interesting ways. I've never had a Tales game that this early made my brain go, oh, I can do this. Wait, what if I combo into that? Oh, wait, what if I juggle with this? For a combat system that even at the beginning is making my brain go to so many different avenues of how can I abuse it, that is an amazing feeling. I've also heard complaints, but haven't fully encountered this yet, but every enemy in Tales of Xillia has some sort of invisible combo counter where after being comboed or juggled a certain amount of times, they'll break out and super armor through your stuff and you'll have to find a way to break them again. For people like young me who prefer a combo simulator with a training dummy, they might hate this. I just want to infinitely juggle my enemies, alright? Just let me do that. The current me actually appreciates this a lot, as now you have to kind of think, oh, I gotta be careful with how I route my combos, and I gotta figure out when they're gonna break out of my combos so that way I can avoid damage and retaliate back into another combo. This one minor change makes it so that there is a bit of reaction in Tales of Xillia, further supported by the unique mechanics that every character that you can control will have. For the martial artist Jude that you're seeing on screen, his special ability is that if he evades an attack by doing a backdash at a certain time, he'll be able to teleport behind the enemy, nothing personal, and then deal a lot of damage. And then you combine that with the link arts you unlock by pairing up with specific people, and you have this very flexible system on how you want to approach and layer your combos and your offensive. In combat, Tales of Xillia Remastered is very smooth, and I can't find a complaint about the combat system. I enjoy it a lot. It is so much fun. Well, okay, I do have some complaints about the combat, but it would not be a Tales game if they were to change these things. For example, the enemy variety could be a lot more involved and nuanced, but then it turns from a power fantasy into something more challenging like a Souls-like, and that's not really what the Tales games are like, so I can't really fault them for, you know what I'm saying. The combat system is nuanced enough for what it wants to be without detracting too much from the story aspect of the game. And on that note, we gotta talk about the not so strong part of Tales of Xillia Remastered. To give a bit of background, I have become a bit more critical of stories nowadays, and I've always enjoyed nitpicking various aspects of stories, especially when it deals with pacing and immersion. I'm not saying everything has to be perfectly paced, but I'm saying it has to have a point. For example, one of my favorite Tales games of all time, Tales of Xillia, I enjoyed because of not only the combat and the characters, but also the way that the story is told. In Xillia, there's a section of the story that is a bit of a slog in terms of pacing. It's more of a meandering tale of people not really making decisive decisions, and there's a air of aimlessness about all of it. And normally I would start complaining left and right, but it ties in perfectly with one of the major characters' plot point of not really being able to make a decision for themselves, and their struggles with self-actualization in terms of what they want to do. To me, I interpreted that lull in the story as something of an intentional aspect to show you the not so great parts of being indecisive. The opening hours of Tales of Xillia to me struggles from pacing issues and also characterization issues that are kind of minor, but it does add up to something that I find jarring. To better explain, I'm gonna have to semi-spoil some stuff, so skip to the timestamp if you don't want to be spoiled at all. So I picked Jude to start out with, and with Jude, he's a teenager who is working to become a doctor in this world, and he's very respected. His fellow co-workers, students, and mentors all seem to think highly of Jude. He is also shown to be an analytical character. When his mentor, who he has worked with for a while, goes missing and he goes looking for him, he stumbles upon his mentor in a test tube, begging for help before his inevitable demise. And because Jude witnesses this, he freaks out. That's perfect. That's normal. He's not able to fully process what's going on yet, and then he gets attacked by the villain, and then Milla comes to save him, and this is where the problems start. Sure, as a young teenager, he can simp for Milla all he wants. That makes sense. But he never reflects upon what he saw within the next 5 hours of the game. I was looking for it, some kind of measured response like, oh my god, I don't know what just happened. Oh no, my mentor's dead. What am I gonna do? Or something like that. Just to show some sort of panic, concern, or even a bit of fear in terms of this could happen to me or my coworkers or my friends. Something to show that it deeply troubled him. And so far, between the story segments and the skits, there's nothing. So he might be a sociopath, and that gets further exacerbated when he gets marked a criminal, and he's about to graduate as a doctor, and he just doesn't care. He's like, oh, I broke all the laws, I'm hunted down. I suppose it's good on him to not really worry too much about his career, but I can only imagine working so hard to become a doctor, doing residencies and all that, putting in years of your life, and just to have that taken away because of something that you didn't do. That would probably sit with you a bit more than oh man, I can't believe people think I'm a criminal. I better go help out this sexy spirit lady because she's cute. I suppose it would kind of slow down the plot a little bit, but I did wish Jude would freak out a bit more about his circumstance. There's a lot of stuff getting thrown at him, and it's so weird to see him react to it with such a, yeah, whatever man, it's cool. And on that note, I will say that the plot also slows down in a weird pace. So right after the opening sequence, there's a slowdown to where you escaped to a new port, and the game basically lets you do some side quests and go to sleep in an inn and have some personal time getting to know your party members. From a game design standpoint, I can see that they're trying to open up the game a little bit to let people flex and do what they want to do instead of following a linear path, but I do see a bit of a missed opportunity not further using the Jude and Milla getting hunted as a way to bring up tension, to get you to care about the characters a bit more, because at this point in the game, Jude's a sociopath, Milla's an airhead, Alvin is kind of cool, but you don't really care too much about any of these characters. They're in no danger, and for the average person, these characters are unrelatable, at least in this point in the story. This will probably be a non-issue for most people, but it is for me. As I mentioned, I've become nitpickier as I've advanced in my YouTube career and as a gamer who's experienced more things. These types of things matter a lot more for me. But even with that said, Tales of Xillia Remastered has me hooked on the combat and the character writing. So even if I'm not super interested in the overall plot, right now I'm having a lot of fun and I plan on continuing through the game. I also want to make note that I think the character progression system, the leveling up grid thing that they have, is an awesome addition, and it keeps me wanting to level up to get that next skill and to unlock the next branch of the outer circle and progress my characters more and more. And since I'm talking about my feelings on the Tales of franchise, I will say one of the biggest blemishes in recent times for the Tales of franchise is the dungeon design and the world layout design. In older games like Abyss, Symphonia, Vesperia, we have world maps where sure, there are enemies populated on there and you can walk from town to town and town to dungeon, and it's nothing crazy. It gives you the sense of scale and mystery that these new limited hallway spaces should give you, but it doesn't, because the design of these spaces are so uninteresting really, that I find most of the recent Tales of games, Arise, Cisteria, Berseria, Xillia Remastered, Tales of Graces F, all of these games struggle from keeping my attention when I'm just playing the game. Everything should not be a linear hallway with maybe one or two branching paths that leads you to an apple gel and some kind of dirt zenny poop thing that you don't care about. And then you have to backtrack back to your main hallway and then go fight more monsters to go to the next room and then repeat the same thing. I'm not saying it's a requirement that they have to reinvent the wheel. After all, that's not what the gameplay is focused on. They are missing out on this huge opportunity to improve their game by giving that dungeon design a bit more care and attention. And this is where I hope that they take lessons from more modern experiences like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves that have very intentional map design where you go to one point of interest to pick up this treasure and there's this little thing nudging you to go to the next point of interest without the game telling you to go there. You're just like, what's over there? I'm not even suggesting that the next Tales of game should go open world or limited open zones or something like that. I'm just saying there are ways to capture people's interest in a small, limited space. But you have to be very intentional with how you do it. And without good environmental design to poke your innate curiosity, you have these very boring hallway maps that you won't remember after putting down the game. I definitely went over my time budget for this first impression, but yeah, Tales of Xillia Remastered is fun. If you want to get to know a new cast of characters and get involved into a more fighting game-esque combat system, this game is right up your alley. But if you are nitpicky like me about the plots or in the environment design, then be warned before you pick up this game. With all that said, that's just my opinion on Tales of Xillia Remastered. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. For more fun content like this, check out the video on screen right now. My name is Varsona, and I'll see you in the next video.